Well, hey guys, Larry out here on the old homestead, and during the projects we got rain coming. So it's going to slow down a little bit of dirt work and everything else. So I'm actually going to be doing some running around. I have to go and pick up a water tote because we got a lot of concrete to pour and we don't have a well. So that's a whole nother story. But hopefully it comes soon. I don't know. You're talking within the next 5 months. We'll see. But so I gotta go pick up that and everything else. But before it starts raining here, I thought what I could do is set up this 04 tractor with all this hydraulics and get the sizes and dimension and all the hoses and everything with what ends I need on them, and get this all taken care of and make a list together that I can drop off at the store and have some hoses made up. So that's what I'm doing. So I'll show you what I got going on. So that's where I'm mounting the hydraulics. I'm mounting it right here. If you sit in there, it's not in your way at all and everything else. And this is going to, I have it just loose, just the bolts and everything loose. But I think I'll be putting it like this. You can put this coming out if you want to. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. We could. We'll see. We'll see how it works out. But it doesn't, you can't come out this side. So it's actually pretty good. And it's out of your way and everything. So mounting up there so the hydraulics will work like that. This is going to operate the third function. The other thing too is that I'm thinking about, I'm getting a roller that's going to attach onto the quick plate, and that there you need constant hydraulic flow. So I was thinking what I would do, you can get setups for this. I just don't want to spend the money, to tell you the truth. So I'm going to drill a hole back there and put a bungee cord, and I'll just tie it to it and hook it like that. Done. Don't have to spend fancy money and everything else. So basically what I have to do is these lines down here, this is from the pump, and this one goes to the tank. That there I need to be able to tee off of. This is kind of, you can buy kits all for this, fairly expensive. I'm just trying to just rig this up. Just an 04 tractor I want to hook up some third attachments to. So I got that. I think that was like $40-50, something like that. Something like that. I didn't think it was that much for the hydraulic controller there. And then I've bought a whole bunch of different fittings. This is where a little bit of money has come into. I think I've spent like $60 on fittings. Had to get them from 3 different companies to get all the ones that I need. But the problem is that this is a JIC fitting. It has a cone style nut on there that goes on to an adapter that has the male type cone, and they go on there and you tighten them down and it seals it. Going up inside here, the threads, I've been to different places up here and talked to different people, and some people say they're boss fitting and everything else. I looked up online for that, and that fitting says they're SAE, and I checked on different sizes. Nobody could figure out what this was. Nobody has nobody has these threads that go in here around here in stores. They're like, nope, I can't even order nothing. Nope. So I went on a wild goose chip. It took me probably 3 weeks of messing around trying to find all these fittings. And that's what all these are. These are all fittings that go from SAE. There are 10, 12s, I think that's it, 10 and 12s. And they go to NPT style threads, and which is basically like black pipe. This is all galvanized stuff. Figured it was a few bucks more, but figured then it wouldn't rust so bad. But this is 3/4. Basically just water pipe, gas line, whatever you want to use it for. And the hydraulic store can fit up to this stuff. So I'm going to basically be converting everything over to MPT and then back up to SAE. And now I can get the hoses made between. So it's a lot of different transferring a back of different things I got to do. So the controls that are in there now, they have SAE that are going to be going up in there, and that's these right here. So this will screw up inside there. And then let's just say this one. This is an MPT fitting. That will screw into there. I seem to have all those. They're there. Then an MPT. Hopefully I figured this all out in my head right. Then a fitting like that that I can tee off that can go to the new valve. And then, where is it? Oh, right here. Then this one, it's got an MPT on one end, and it's an SAE on the other. So that way the fitting that I pull out of the valve, I will connect it over here, and then I'll connect the hose onto here to go to the new fitting up on the top, on the new valve. All right, so I got everything rigged up. You can see what's gonna happen here. I have the return line from the tank going on. I actually have that just threaded on. I do not have the pump line, because if I put it down, that low oil just runs all out. So I kind of just keep it up high. I have it stuck up there, and I'm gonna wrap it with some with a plastic bag and some duct tape to keep water from getting in there. But I need to get a longer pipe for this because I want it to fit over there in between to keep the hoses all in one containment right in here. But then I got this all figured out up here. And so this is just going to be 3/4 MPT, 3/4 MPT down to 3/4 MPT, 3/4 MPT, all male, and lines running down. And then me and Jonah here have measured from here and measured all the way down the boom to where the connectors are going to be, and that is 10 foot 6 inches long, 2 3/8 lines, and these are 4 feet down. So I got all the lines measured, so that's what I'm going to do. And Jonah's over there trying to Google search what this tractor is. I don't know, and there's no tags on it, and he's trying to figure it out by taking a picture and thinks Google's going to tell him. But I have never known, and it has diesel getting into the oil. It is happening, and so that usually means an injector, usually to seal up an injector shot. Could also be injectors too. So I scratched off and took a picture of the tag there on the injector pump, and I'm going to call up some companies and see if I can find somebody to rebuild it, how much it would be. And tell you the truth, I wouldn't mind finding some new injectors for this. I don't want to throw a ton of money into it, you know, just the old Ford, but I also don't want a bunch of diesel washing out the oil and the engine blowing up after all this work I've done on it. So we're gonna button things up. The rain has held off pretty good, and Jonah's been down there working on the sewer drain field, cleaning that up. But I got places I gotta go. I gotta get these things ordered. I gotta get to the post office, return some cores from the truck, and so we're gonna actually cut out. I also looked up and got the oil filters, transmission filter number, and I'm going to change oil in this thing. I've actually never changed oil in this tractor, so gonna take care of that too. Well, guys, I got this all plumbed up. And first, let me start with, I am not a hydraulic expert. I can look at things, I can kind of figure them out and figure stuff out, but there's something going on here I cannot figure out. And so to recap this is the original valve that was on the tractor. This does the lifting of the boom and the tilting of the bucket. I am not sure what this does. I'm really not sure. This thing has never moved. I have never moved that in my life. I don't know what it does. I sprayed it with some WD-40 and stuff, cleaned it all up. It somehow has a line that goes to here, and I'm wondering if this is a plug, but that just goes to that ram, and then it comes out of here and goes to another piece, and then it comes out of the other way and goes around this. I don't know if this is solid in here or what, but hydraulic ram, basically it has oil that comes, or hydraulic valve has oil that comes into it, and it flows through it, and creates pressure in there, and then you can open a valve which pulls like a plunger inside, which then releases hydraulic oil into whatever hose that plunger goes to. And say like in the case of this, hydraulic oil will go to here and go to this end, and it would push hydraulic oil into there, which would extend that ram that's inside there. And they're always like chromoly and stuff, so they seal good and everything. Sorry if the wind is killing you, but it pushes it out, and there's seals in there that keeps the oil inside there. Then if it goes to the other line and this one stops, then it puts oil in the top and pushes it down inside. It's like a plunger inside there. That's how hydraulic rams work. Done many of them on the farm. Everything else, everything has been good. So all I needed to do was get a third function, because I have this grapple bucket thing, and I also am looking at a roller too. And so I need to have some hookups up here that I can hook up to these other pieces of equipment with this quick attach that I can operate by a third function. So in my mind, pressure comes in here to the valve. So it feeds this valve assembly inside of here, puts pressure into it. Then I teed off of it and I ran a line up and I put a valve up there. So not only is it going to put pressure into that valve, but it's also going to pressure that valve. And then the other line is a line that comes down, and that's teed into the return line that goes back down into the frame and goes back around to the tank. My mind, it'll work. It didn't. I'll show it to you guys. All right, fire up the tractor. Little noisy, but this lever is for the bucket going up. If I pull this back, nothing happens. If I push forward, it goes down. I don't know if you saw that, but it did drop down. Same way with the bucket tilt. It'll tilt down, but won't tilt back. But if I hold this back, and I believe it's pushed forward, now the bucket goes up. It goes down without doing it, but it won't go up. And it's the same thing with the bucket curl. See, it'll curl down, but it won't curl back unless I push this lever up here and it curls up. I am at a loss. So I don't know what is going on here. I can't figure it out. I am at a loss. They do make what's called diverters, and I have looked at them and everything else. So you can buy these kits for certain tractors and everything else that add a third function to them, and you hook them up to electric power, and basically you push a button, and from what I understand, it diverts the flow to your main valve to a secondary valve that you install, and then that valve works. And then you push the button again, and then it takes the flow of oil away from there and puts it back to the main power. They're super, super expensive. And this tractor, I've looked it up, it's around 21 GPM, I believe they call it. I heard somebody behind me in a car or something. In this tractor and everything. And for a 21 gallon per minute flow rate of hydraulic fluid, they were like $700, $800, $900. They were like pretty crazy expensive. And I was like, okay. Then I got to install some other thing. And yeah, they kind of like send you hoses and stuff, but the hoses aren't going to match up and everything and what I need. But so I'd be installing something else, trying to rig something else to make something else work. And I gave up. I put it onto the grapple. I was all excited and I was videoing it. And I'm like, here we go. And I pulled it back and wouldn't lift. I was like, what in the world? Maybe it just got a bunch of air in the cylinder. And somehow I decided to push this button, push this valve up here while I was pulling that one, and then it raised. I saw it raise. I was like, what the world? Somehow this one will not operate without this one operating at the same time. I don't know what the difference is, because there's pressure that goes up in there. There's nothing blocking it. So I don't get it. I don't understand it. But I give up. I can't figure it out. So I'm changing things around. I'll show you. And here's the other funny thing is when I hooked it up to the grapple bucket, there's two lines. There's a, you know, 2 feed lines for the hydraulic fluid going to it. Plugged them in and figured out you have to use both valves to make it work, to raise it and lower it and tilt it and all that stuff. I was like, okay. I was trying to figure out, can this be operational and work like this? And I was like, And then I tried to operate the grapple part. And I pull back in that lever back and forth. And they would go down, but they won't come back up. And so then, and the messed up thing about it is if you pull back on it to raise them, and you pull back on the boom lift, the right grapple will go up, but the left one doesn't. But then if you pull back on the tilt, then the left one goes up. But there's only 2 lines, and they go into a T-block, and the lines just go, there's no junction, there's no separation of it. It's just, the 2 lines go to both valves. But somehow, you have to operate different valves down here with that. It's a mess. I don't know. I'm so confused. So, here's what I came up with. Instead of all this rigging all up and trying to make things work together that I can't seem to figure out how to make it work together, I'm taking it all out. I'm taking all the controls out, taking the single one out that I got, taking the original one off the tractor, taking that one off, disconnecting all the lines. And I looked around and I found this one. It actually has the same size hookups that are in there and everything, with that SAE 12 and SAE 10 hookups and everything. And it has 3 controls. And this is 21 gallons per minute. And this way I'll be able to put the boom lift on one, put the tilt on another, and then put the third function on the other arm. And it'll all be together, so this should work. And the cool thing about it is going from, I don't have access to a lot of things up here in the UP. It's very hard. There's just not, you know, you live towards a bigger town, a lot more community or something like that. There's a lot of different businesses that carry all the pieces and parts and stuff that you can get all this stuff and do it as you build. Up here, I don't. Valves, they have what they call SAE fittings, threading that goes into them. They're special threading. They're SAE, I believe they're also called Boss fittings. They're basically a threaded fitting, and then it has a certain thread count, and then it has an O-ring on it that seals it. Well, I had all these fittings here that fit, that I got for that one. And I thought, I got tons of those fittings. I've ordered all these things to do it. I should be able to do it. I got the thing in. I said, hey, this looks all the same. And as you can see, I was able to use most of the fittings. The only problem was the line over here for the pump that puts the fluid into the valve. This was an SAE 10. And the ones that I had that going into the pump on that one were SAE 12s. So I ended up having to jump back on the internet, order another one of those, got it, and I got it a couple days ago and came out and plumbed this all in. Now these fittings here, there's the SAE 10, SAE 12, whatever, threading, and then I've converted it over to an MPT, which is this basically water pipe, gas line, whatever you want to use. I'm using galvanized because maybe it won't rust as much. That's the only reason why I'm using the galvanized. They're a little bit more expensive, but they are supposed to keep from rusting. So this is my tank going to the tank. So the fluid is going to come in. It comes in through the supply line from the pump, comes in the bottom of it. I have it kind of snaked around to try to keep it as far away from all the controls and everything else. Comes up, goes into this pump valve here. And then it flows through this pump valve, and whatever fluid isn't being utilized, it just naturally flows through here and gets returned back down into that hose, which goes into the frame, which on the other side, the hose goes back to the tank. So it's a whole circle loop thing. Then I had to kind of change some things around with the hose, with the arms and everything, because the plumbing down here was all hard lined into the other valve and it wasn't going to match up. So then I ended up getting a new T down there, on one of the lines because it had a hard line that was soldered right onto it, and it just wasn't going to work. So I ended up just getting a 5/8 T fitting, put that into the connections, and that way both sides are tied together, and it has the line right here that comes up, and I just had a rubber line made up and had it go down there and tap into it. Then I had another one come up here, and that goes right down to it. And I was able to take all these fittings, these straight fittings that are in this one, this one, this one, and this one. This one's a 90-degree one. But I was able to take those off the old valve, and they screwed right into this one. Then I had these lines already that's going up to the third function grapple connections up in the front, and just utilize those. They're a little bit long. They kind of just loop out. No big deal. Then I started looking at the ones for the tilt, and they're hard lines that go down along the boom, and they have a connection point right up here. And those two rubber lines come up, and that's what is screwed in here and utilizes it. Well, I had new lines made up. I had a new line made up. I had this line I can't get made up because they do not have the other end of this hose in stock. So they're ordering it and they're going to make it. All I got to do is just unscrew this, unscrew that. A little bit of oil is going to leak out, but I can just quick screw it back in and away I go. Then, so now I have this all plumbed in. I believe I have everything tight. And I have my fittings up here in the front of the tractor that I can attach the grapple to. And also I bought this new roller, and on that new roller, it has a third line. And so that's what that line is for. It's that third hookup line. It goes right along, runs along the loop of the other lines, and comes back here, comes down, and it goes back into the line for the tank so that it can let fluid come back in. I have a one-way fitting on there so only fluid can come back. Okay, so now we're on to the roller. So there's two hydraulic lines. And I'm going to tell you, I'm very confused by this roller, the guy that I bought it from. I don't believe this roller has ever been used. I believe it is brand spanking new. There is a serial number on it, the tag on it, the year's right on their manufacturer. It's brand spanking new. There's a couple little spots on the wheel that, you know, are kind of scratched and stuff. That could have been out of the lot. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but he said in a marketplace thing that he used it in his driveway for like 10 minutes and he just doesn't have a use for it anymore, and he decided to get rid of it instead of sitting around rusting. All of the lines were completely finger tight. And you can see all the wet spot from sitting here where I unloaded it. It's just been dripping oil across the wheel. I don't think this thing's ever been used. I don't know what's going on with it. I don't know how to figure this out. I don't know if there is something to figure out or what. But I have everything all sealed up. I have all the connections all tight and everything for the hydraulic lines. And so on this wheel, it has an in and an out. The hydraulic fluid will come into here, and this is a hydraulic motor. The fluid will go into the motor and turn the motor, which is then connected through, it's kind of like it's not a spline thing, but it's a dampener, I think they call it. That's in there on the motor shaft. And it takes the impact from the motor starting and stuff, and there is a shaft that goes all the way through this roller. This roller just spins freely. So you can just put this on the front of the tractor, drive along, it will roller things. But then when you hit the hydraulics, that motor spins, and there's a shaft that goes all the way through that has counter shafts on it that has a kind of like a crankshaft. They're offset, except on a crankshaft, they offset it and then they balance it so when it spins, it's true and there's no vibration. Because if you have a crankshaft in an engine that crankshaft is out of balance, you'll get a lot of vibration in a motor. The motor will just go crazy and everything. Well, in this here, they want it to go crazy. So the shafts are actually on the same side. So as it spins, it vibrates a lot. So it's going to vibrate this whole wheel and pack the dirt. It's going to vibrate the ground down and pack it all in. And then the force of the tractor with this wheel pressing down is going to press the dirt down and do that. So this is great. This is what I've been looking for. I would love to have a big riding one, but like I've said, I don't have another $20,000 to put into one piece of equipment. But the problem is that it also comes with this third line. And if you look at other manufacturers of these things and stuff, this is a cheap one. And if you look at other manufacturers, I think Cat has one, and a couple skid loader companies, they make their own and everything else. They don't have this third line. And from what I've understand in my research and checking this out and why this is here, is because it's down here, and somehow, so the motor doesn't overheat, it can let the oil be returned back in. So that's all I got from that. So I need some kind of hookup, and it did have one of these fittings on there. They're a closed face fitting, which are really nice because it keeps the dirt and everything from getting plugged up in there. If you guys have ever had tractors and hydraulics in the olden days, they have like a hole in there with the ball bearings, and you kind of slide a collar back and you push them in and then you let go of the collar. Well, dirt and junk always gets up in there. Well, these are flat face, so they don't get that way. Plus you got the little cap put on there. This one did have one on there, but it was a real super small one. It was about the size of this, and I did have a couple extra ones of these, and it wouldn't fit. I went to Tractor Supply, they don't have them. So what I did is I just put this on there because it's just going to be hooked up. I am going to get the caps that go on there. I forgot to grab my Tractor Supply. There's a little rubber cap that can go around here, and it goes over to keep it sealed up. So this is ready to go, kind of. Before I actually run it, I've watched some videos on this model, and there's a lot of problem with that vibration dampener thing in there. A lot of people say the bolts are loose from the factory and everything, and they just fall apart. There's grease zerks in there. I could tell that this guy has never, ever, this guy that I got it from, has never, ever greased this. And everything is brand, I mean, it looks brand spanking new. I don't think it's been used, but I need to grease that. That grease zerk there is connected onto a tube that goes into the bearing that the shaft sits on. So got to grease that a ton. And there's also a grease zerk down inside there that, from what videos I've seen, I think the manufacturer meant for it to be lined up with this hole right here, and it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. It's kind of over here. So I saw a lot of people, they took a cutoff saw and they just cut this chunk of metal out so they can get a grease gun in there. Probably same thing I'm going to do with that. And then I'm going to pull that out, the motor off, and check all the bolts, make sure everything is nice and tight, probably Loctite everything before I use it. Grease all that up really good. And then there's a grease zerk on the other end that handles the bearing on the other side. So got to do that before I operate it. But first of all, it's about killing me here. All this work, I need to see if this thing works. All right, we got it idling. Pull back on this, the boom should come up. Oh, ho, ho. There she goes. I'm gonna take it out and check the hose of clearance here. Yeah, that's gonna work. Yeah. Go down. I actually think I'm gonna take this hose out from up here and put it down here, kind of hanging out the side. It got a little tight. I'm going to change the other on. That's what I need to see. So it's working. Perfect. So now the tilt should be this one coming back to tilt back. Okay, it's almost all the way tilted back already. But it did. This one forward. Woo! That's awesome. So now this one here is the third function. I don't have it hooked up, so I'm going to go hook the grapple arm onto it and see what it does. Well guys, I got it hooked up to the grapple and got my hydraulic lines plugged in. Let's see if she works. So we still have our up and down. There we go. We can tilt it. And here we go. Oh. I have the lines hooked up backwards because if I pull down on it, it actually closes the clamps. I can see them closing. So I'm going to have to switch these two lines, or I can switch them up there. There they go. So now we have it there. Clamp down. Boom. All right. So I just got a little fix to do, which is actually probably good because I noticed there's a little oil leak right around this fitting. So I need to I'll probably try to tighten it down a little bit more, but I think it's leaking right around here. I replaced all the O-rings on all the old ones, but this is a new one. I took it out of the one hydraulic valve and just screwed it in here. Should have replaced that O-ring too. Well, there we go, guys. We have the roller all hooked up and the lines all connected and everything else. And I've actually come up through here, and this is kind of soft. It's kind of a little spongy in here and stuff. And I just made one pass up to here and walked through there, and it's actually pretty dang firm. This is just idling. If I turn it up, it's gonna do it. But if you hit the thing, I don't know if you can hear it or not, but I know you can't feel it, but I can. And the whole tractor's shaking, and you can hear it going. And if you give it more throttle, it really goes. You can actually see the dirt falling. So, to get into these hoses, having these two lines right here made up, these two, they're 10 feet long. This one has a 90 on it. This one just has a straight fitting on. The other two are just male. 1/2 inch MPT. Those two lines and the two bigger lines that I had made up that would go up to that valve to feed it ended up costing me almost $500. Yeah, I think it was $560 or something like that. It was tremendously expensive, and I didn't ask the price beforehand. They rang it up. I didn't ask the price when they were ringing up, and they said, yeah, 500. I was like, oh. You know, what are you gonna do? I mean, that's a question that should be asked beforehand, so it's can't complain about it. They have actually, I've been doing a lot of shopping in there for different supplies and everything, and they've all kind of gotten to know me, and now they've given me a discount. So they have reduced the price on some of the stuff and everything and helping me out a little bit and giving me an actual discount. And so I went in and I had these two lines made, the two lines that feed the boom lift and everything and retract, and I had this line made up that's going to feed that. And the thing is that he was missing one of the male JICs for one of these hoses, and he was missing these 90-degree fittings right here. He didn't have them in stock. So he gave me the part numbers, and I wanted to deal with them because I kind of trying to deal with them so that they can give me, they see that I'm a returning customer and get a better discount. But I ran around town, I went to O'Reilly's. I was able to find these 290s here. And those 290s cost me $150. Two fittings, $150. They were 75 something a piece. And it was like 151 something it cost. Then the other male on this GIC, I went to a different place. It was like an Auto Value or something like that. Went there and they had that one, and it was $23 for that one fitting. So I took it all back there and he made all the hoses up for me. I was all excited, came out here yesterday, ready to put it together, get it working and everything else. He put all the wrong ends on it. He put 1/2 inch, and these are 5/8 JIC. I drove back to Zal and I'm like, dude, they're all the wrong size. And he's like, what? And we started looking at it. He had these old hoses in the back. He asked me if I want them back, and I was like, no, I'll just throw them away. So he went and got them out and everything. We looked at the fitting, we tried screwing them into the hoses he had. It's like, oh my goodness. He goes, I always screw these things together and make sure I got the right ones. I didn't. And he goes, well, here's the problem. He goes, you got 5/8 line here. I don't carry fittings for 5/8 line. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? So he refunded me the money, and I said, well, what about these fittings I had to go buy at O'Reilly's? I can't return them back there. That was $150. And I says, and the other fitting was 23 something. And he said, well, I'll just punch it in my computer and we'll refund it here. He punched it in his computer. Instead of being 75 something, they came up to be $38 there. And then what he did is he ended up giving me all the price of the hoses back too. And he refunded the price of the hose of this, I guess it was. And that came out to be the amount. So everything was like, okay, I'll have to call around, see if I can find somebody. There's an implement place up here. He said he thinks they do 5/8. So then I came back here and I started screwing this line. I thought, well, at least I can install this one. Started putting this one in, and I told them 1/2" MPT with 3/8 line. It's just a fluid return, doesn't need big sizes, going as cheap as I can. And I had an adapter because I'm going for 3/4, so I had to be 3/4 down to a 1/2". And I had bought these, and one was not in the package. And I put it in there, and I tried to screw the thing in, and it was too small. The end of the hose is too big, and I was like, "Are you kidding me right now?" So I packaged it all up, took it all back to him, and it actually fits right into these 5/8 fittings. And I took it back to him, and I'm like, "Dude, we're batting zero here." And he started looking at it, and I showed him the little fitting I had, and he's like, "I think that's 3/8." And I said, "I have another one in the package." I went out there and grabbed the other one. Came in, sure enough, I pulled them out of the bin at the hardware store, and one was wrong, in the wrong place. So it was all good. This hose is the right size and everything else. Came back, and I started talking to him, and I came back and I measured, and they're connected to hard lines going down. And I said, "Well, do you have the 5/8 fittings that fit JIC but going to 1/2" hose?" And he said, "Yes, we do." He said, "I think we got those fittings, and we might have enough to do yours." And he goes, "But you can't reduce the size of the hose because that's going to change your pressure." And I said, "But they're connected to the hard lines." And I did an inside measurement of the hard lines, and they're 1/2" inside diameter hard lines. And he's like, "Then why do you use 5/8? That doesn't make any sense, because it doesn't matter if you can have 2" hose up to that 1/2" hard line. It's still the same one." I said, "I know." So I said, "Go for it." So he changed them all around. He was short one fitting. This hose didn't need to be lengthened or anything. It has cracks all in it and everything. I don't expect it to last forever, but I do want to change it. But he's going to order that fitting and do that one. So he refunded me, when all the wrong hoses are, he refunded me the money, and it came out to be like $300. So I ended up, and it was like $303 total for everything. Then I had $150, $170. I did buy a couple other things, and they were like $70 for some stuff and Permatex and stuff, and I had like $75 of stuff. So I basically had lost like $100. Then he went back and he rebuilt them all and everything, and he went in there and changed it all around, and I didn't say anything to him, and he applied some other kind of discount to it, and he ended up giving it all back to me at $199. So basically it all came out to be at the end. What is the lesson I've learned here? Get your own hydraulic hose crimper. For one thing, it's very expensive, and these guys are even cutting me a deal, but the price they're charging for this hose, I can buy this line right here for like 80 cents a foot, and they're charging me like $7, $8, and that's a discount. 1/2" line and everything like this here stuff is like $1 a foot. I can get it, they're charging like 11 something. So I mean, that is tremendous. But then these valves, these connectors, like this one right here with this 90 and stuff at O'Reilly's, I had 2 of them, $75 a piece. He said they sold them for $38. I went online and looked them up later and everything. I could order these things for $21. So it's not really that big a deal. I just need to get a press that can press these and everything else. Yes, they do make reusable hydraulic ends and stuff. I used to use them all the time when I worked for Schwinn Trucking as a mechanic, and that's what he used there all the time. He had all these reusable ends, and we would use them. They work okay and everything else, but they're not as good as these. They're not as good as a crimped on one and everything. So I am going to be looking around, getting me a hydraulic hose crimper that I can make my own hoses, because I can tell you right now, I've looked at it and stuff, and even the cheap ones out there and everything, they'll work for what I need. And by the time you do all that, by the time I would have spent all the money and everything that I did, and all the time and everything, if you want to factor that into it, I would have actually paid for that hose crimper and the amount of money I saved. So it's crazy. So there we go. I finally have gotten this thing all hooked up, gotten the hydraulics figured out. We'll see how long that hydraulic motor lasts. I've heard it's not the greatest, but you know, it is what it is. We'll see how that goes and stuff. I just drove it up the driveway one time and it's warm, but it's not super hot. But I just drove it up here and I rollered as I came up the driveway and everything else, and she's shaking good and pushing down on it and rolling the ground down. So that's all I needed for here. What I've been doing in the past is I've been building the driveway and dumping out dirt and everything. And then what I do is I use the bulldozer and I go over and I go back and forth and put the tracks right next to each other and just keep going back and forth, pack it in. I let it sit for like a day or something like that and the sun beating on it. And then I usually use my pickup truck and do the same thing. I drive up and down, putting over one tire track, over the next tire track, and go back and forth because it's heavier. And then I'll go with and that usually packs it in a little bit more. And then I usually go with the backhoe because that's 18,000 pounds. And I do the same thing, go back and forth and pack it all in and stuff. And then I usually, at the end of that, then I'll take the bucket and put it flat and tip it down a little bit and just drag it back, pushing it down. Then I let it dry out and it's been firming up pretty good. Then I move on to the dump truck. And then I'll do the dump truck up and down and packing it in and everything. And then I'll put a little dirt into the dump truck, do the same thing, back and forth, then put another bucket in, keep adding weight into it, packing it down. And then when I go hauling all the loads down there and dumping the dirt, I have a full dump truck, which is probably what, 30 some thousand pounds, and going down and it's packing it all in and making it all firm. And so the driveway has been very good. It's been tensing, it's been building up really good. It's like a rock. I'm really happy with it. But having the compact roller will make things a lot faster. It'll take some of those steps out of it, and I'll be able to put the dirt down and then drive through with the tractor, roller it out, compact it in. And then with the rock too, when I bring the rock in and put it on top of the driveway, I'll be able to go over the top of the rock and it'll vibrate and push all those rocks down into the clay stuff here. And probably as soon as it rains, we get a good rain, once the driveway's all complete and I'll put the rock on, it'll soften up the clay on top of the dirt, and then I'll go in and do that same thing and press it all into it. That'll give me my foundation, and I'll have 6-8 inches, maybe even a foot of crushed rock on top of here. That'll give me good foundation. The problem that I had up here is I made this whole landing, I pushed this all out, got it to the right height, and before I could start compacting it, it started downpour raining. And I didn't watch the weather the greatest, and this whole end out here was soft, and this last little buildup of the driveway here, and it rained for 3 days straight, and we had so much rain, and it just flooded this place. And it has been, I think we're almost 2 weeks since that, and it's finally gotten, I think it was like 2 days ago, I finally was able to actually drive my pickup up here, and I've been using the backhoe and kind of compacting it and using a bucket and flattening it out, and it's finally getting to be firm and stuff. So it would have been really nice, I kind of screwed that one up, but it would have been really nice to jump on the roller, you know, started raining, oh, I need to stop, jump on the roller, compact it, now we had a water, because once you compact this stuff down, this fill, once you get this stuff compacted down, the water just runs right off of it. It's almost like a concrete type stuff. It's good for fill, not good for a garden or something. You don't want to plant in this stuff, but hey, it's good for fill. So awesome, I finally got these hydraulics working, got this thing compacting, roller, got the grapple thing, that's all taken care of, so you can use that to pick up all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's working really well. So I'm going to let you guys go. I hope that everybody out there is having themselves a great day, great night as you watch this here video. And if you're not, you can always try that all over again tomorrow. God bless you guys, and I will catch you next time. I'll show you at the end of here. I've actually, because it's been so wet up here, I've been waiting for parts and everything else. That fill over there that I have dug up to finish the little bit of grade on this driveway needs to be done. It's so wet from the rain up here. I mounted that all up, and then it rained 3 days on it, and it is just, it's so wet, it's not even funny. So I've actually been doing some searching around for different dirt that's better, and I have found some, and I'll show you guys. So first, I've actually worked on this a little bit.
Out there where it's green, that is the septic drain field. It's not that big, but it is a septic drain field, and the drains are going to go like this. There's going to be pipes going in and going that way. The guy told me to do that. He said it would be a lot better than trying to go to lengthwise. I don't know. I'm not really sure on that one, but that's what he was saying, and I'm going to stick with it. But that is the drain field. The boys have been down here, and they've been picking up all the dead wood and sticks and everything else. And basically, we have to cut everything down, all the grass and everything right to the ground. And so that is the area that is going to be done in. And then I came with the bulldozer and went around the outside of it, and I've been going down through the topsoil and basically just getting the roots and chunks of stuff and everything pushed off. I have a big pile over there, and I'll be using that grapple bucket and going into it, scooping through the dirt, and then shake it and everything, and all the dirt will come out, and I'll end up with the roots and the chunks of dead trees and all that stuff, and I can throw that on a burn pile. So I've been working a little bit on this and everything else, cutting all the stumps off, cutting them all flush with the ground. That's pretty close to being ready to go. And then I have to start hauling in sand, and I need at least a foot of sand over this entire area that's green. That all has to be covered with sand, at least a foot, and that gives me my 48 inches of drainage for my septic system. I got a big stump there in the root system down in there. I hit it with the bulldozer, and she would not come out, so gotta get the backhoe up here to dig that one out. But then all this out here is going to be all fill, and it's going to be the same height as the septic when it's all done with the sand, all the drains and all that stuff put in, and then there'll be sand on top and then some topsoil. So that'll all be built up probably almost 3 feet. And when that's all done, then I'm going to put fill all out in here and bring it down where the height of the driveway is kind of even, and then dig a ditch all the way down the driveway going down, and I have a culvert at the bottom so that this whole area can drain down to that culvert and then off to the other side. And then I've been down here, and this is the pond area. Just a little pond. The house will be up on top of that hill. Been showing you guys this, and you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. I still have to do this end of it. This mound of dirt here is, when I first got the backhoe, I was practicing with the backhoe, learning it and stuff like that, and I was curious of what kind of dirt was down here and stuff, what the pond, what was going to be down here where I wanted to put the pond. And I dug that out, and that's a clay and stony mixture stuff, and that's going to work good for fill. So I have been in here with the bulldozer. I spent I think about 2 days in here with the bulldozer and basically tearing up all the roots, and this was all trees and stumps, and you know, the timber company before us, they owned us, and they just would cut the stuff off, and they'd cut the stumps, you know, a foot up off the ground and drop the trees and drag it away, and they didn't care about anything else, and then they planted some more trees in here. Yeah, and that's the way they do their land, because they don't care about that. But it was pretty horrific. You could see all this stuff piled all up here. That's just all just dead wood and stumps and roots, and just, it's all piled up there and stuff. And that I'll be able to take the grapple and go through all this and kind of scoop it up and get it out of here and stuff, and get all the wood, junk wood stuff out of here, put it on the burn pile and burn it this winter. But you can kind of see the shape of the pond here. This will kind of be the end of it here. I'll probably build that across there so it's level with that, but I will probably put a culvert, because it's kind of a ravine that comes down this way. So in the spring and stuff, when the snow melts, the water will still be able to get through there without washing that out. But then kind of around here and right where it's dug out, this will be the top of it, right alongside this berm all the way down. And then that'll be the other top of this other side of it, and then build a dam down on the other end to hold the water in. And basically, I need to get all the topsoil off. This is just scraping the roots off. There's still a ton of topsoil in here. It's some places it's a foot, almost 2 feet of nice black topsoil, which we're going to need in the future when we do the lawns all down the side of the driveway, so we can plant grass and stuff in it. And this stuff is some pretty rich black dirt. So I'll be going through it and cleaning it all up. So that phone call, I don't know, that I just had was actually from the Environmental Services of Michigan. Because I actually was working on this, and we had a men's breakfast at the church, and the guys were asking me, hey, how's it going out there? What you got going on? And I said, oh, I'm starting to dig a pond. I kind of stuck with not being able to work up where we're building. So I'm doing this a little bit and clearing it and everything else. One guy's like, oh, really? You're making a pond? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, you got a permit for that? And I'm like, I need to put a permit on my own private land for a pond? And he's like, oh, yeah, there's been some guys that gotten in trouble for that. So I went online and actually contacted, I looked it up, and it was called EAGLE, and abbreviation, it's environmental something, Great Lakes something something. And I contacted them, and they gave me the guy who's in charge of this area. And I called him a couple days ago, and he just called me back. And does not sound like I will need a permit for it. He says it has to be, it cannot be a wetland. Well, it's not a wetland. And also it cannot be within 500 feet of a stream and stuff. There is a stream down there. Now I'm gonna have to measure, and that actually might move the pond this way some. Might actually make it a little bit smaller. So it might come up a little ways. I'm not really sure on that one. I'm gonna have to pace it off. So I gotta be 500 feet away from any kind of water, any kind of a stream or lake or pond, other thing that's regulated. So I talked to him all about it. Told him, I said, I think it's about 2.5 acres, somewhere around in there. I just found a chunk of metal here. And talking to him and all this, and he says, I do not believe that it needs to be regulated. And I gave him the address. I said, why don't you do a Google? He was asking. I said, here's the address of the place. You can do a Google search of it. You can actually see it. And he was actually looking at it on a computer, and I kind of pointed out exactly where the pond is going to be. And he goes, yeah. He goes, that looks like a great place for it. And I says, yeah. And he goes, I think you're going to be all good. He goes, but let me double check everything and cross all my T's and dot all the I's and make sure before I say, hey, you don't need a pond. Or, hey, we need to get a permit. Or you can have your pond without a permit, or we need to get a permit. So either one of those ways. If I have to get a permit, well, I got to get a permit, and I got to come out here and tell me, yeah, okay, whatever. Just something. But I guess from what he's saying, it sounds like I won't need a permit. But he just wants to make sure. Excuse me. So I am going to get going. I got to go pick up the kids from school. That's my afternoon duties. Do I take them to school, and then I work in the morning and stuff, and then I come out here and I work, and then I head off and pick up the kids from school, and I go drop them off at home, and I usually come back out here and continue to work. So that's where I got to head off to. So I'll catch you guys later. Bye.